Hello, family. I'm Janaya Future Khan, and this is Dark Woke. Just before we hit it, I want to say thank you to all the listeners out there, and a special shout out to the supporters who make this show possible. It truly means the world to me. If you'd like to become a supporter, our Patreon will be linked in the episode right up below. Oh my God. Okay, we've got to talk about the enshitification of America. Why are we all not using this word? This is the word. This is the word. It is the only word that it's so satisfying to say. It both allows you to be pretentious and judgy, and it's accurate, and it's also an indictment of the system and corporate, late stage capitalist practices that just strip everything of meaning and just extract from us constantly. Okay. Enshitification is a term. There's a book about it now, which is hilarious. But essentially it's a term for, do you know when we used to use like platforms online? Take a Facebook, right? Take a Google. And we used to actually get different perspectives, different thoughts, different opinions, different sources. But now we just get the same trash over and over again. Enshitification. It talks about how essentially we end up using a product. We like the product. We're like, this is a good product. I think I want to keep using this product. And then they're like, gotcha, bitch. And they trap you. And then there's all these contracts and exchanges and updated terms. And then before you know it, you're using something that's lost its value and just sort of takes and takes and takes, but you're kind of trapped. Like there's so many subscriptions that I have and that just feels, that's enshitification. I don't even know if it's worth it anymore. Somebody tell me if I should shut down the Paramount one because I got Hulu so I could watch the news. Remember when that was just, was the news ever free actually? Or did I just have the basic cable package? I think if you got the ears right, you could get news for free, but that's neither here nor there. What are we talking about in the enshitification? Oh, so satisfying of America. We're going to be talking about food banks and the snap cuts, a little bit on the government shutdown, essentially how we came to have food aid in the first place, who's most impacted by this, whose fault is it, and what it actually means. And of course, we're going to be ending the segment on some heroes because we need to remember who our people are. But before we get into everything that has to do with 40 to 42 million people possibly going hungry this month and dispelling all the bullshit and the racism that surrounds that, I need to get you with a couple of things that got me, right? These quick hits, because I want to just remind us for everything that we could literally be living in paradise at all moments. All moments of the day. And I used to let that feeling eat me up. And then I kind of was like, no, it will eat you up. And now I'm just letting it eat me up inside because we need to be reminded of that all the time. This is a choice. You want to know where we're at in society? Even the good news sources are coming at me crazy, okay? On The Guardian. It's one of the quick hits. It says there's this new breakthrough in modern medicine. I was like, oh, it's speaking to me. I need to know exactly what it is. They called it a medical miracle, right? They said this most overlooked opportunity in women's health, right? And I was like, oh my God, I've got to know what this is. You want to know what it is? They're starting to examine period blood. Apparently, we've not already been doing that. Remember when I said this country and this world, we just don't care about bitches? How 50% of the world's population, most underlooked, under-resourced, under-researched, understudied. Yeah, they weren't even looking at period blood. In fact, the lead up in the article is period blood has long been thought of as quote, stinky and useless. But startups are exploring using the fluid to test for a wide range of health conditions, including difficult to diagnose endometriosis. Okay, so that's 2025. 2025, right? We got a bunch of leaders of the gerontocracy talking about what women should be doing or not doing with their fucking bodies. But don't worry, we have lean in culture. and Taylor Swift brand feminism. It's going to save the day. And if you're not into that, then there's definitely a bunch of trans people who are willing to just throw women under the bus and trample them when the women who would do that themselves are not busy thinking Trump voters, thinking TERFs. Don't ever forget. But the way that I need to actually read to you the way that this article opened up, because I was just like, I had to get through it. I got to know what it says. It says, this is a little, I'm reading from the article. Somewhere in the US, a woman on her period pulled out her dripping, saturated tampon. But instead of wrapping it in toilet paper and tossing it into a bin, she put the tampon in a special plastic sample container, screwed the lid on tight, and mailed it to an address in Oakland, California. I'm going to tell you this. They did describe it. It was low-key gross the way they described it, but that was on purpose. The thing is, this period blood and period should have never been thought of as gross or weird or shameful or secretive to begin with. You want to talk about how, Western culture is so fucking civilized, so much more civilized. Where? In the 40 some odd million people who aren't going to get access to food? Or what about the fact that we got a new surge in bird flu, but no way to track it? Not a single way to track it because they gutted everything that is federally good. Right? How about that? Oh, no. We don't want to go there. We don't want to talk about and what the implications of a government shutdown is on that. We're definitely not, but that's not a concern, no, because we just found out that something that happens to half the percent of this country every single fucking month was suddenly worth studying. Don't you find this is why I do want to bring back that old Sylvia Plath dark woke anger that women felt, before we bought into change means getting to do the same things that men do, because not even all the men got to do it. Right? It's the smallest subset of the smallest subset. Anyway, I thought that was fucking hilarious because that's where we're at. We're just, and these are startups. You know what I mean? They're startups. Are they really going to get funded? And especially in this political time? I don't know. Can we please just seize control and hold it forever? Okay, no. We got to move on, okay? I could talk about this for 100 years. You heard me talk about it too often. But yeah, we just made it weird. We made it so weird. So maybe we should talk about something that shouldn't be fucking weird, but absolutely is. Do you remember when the Biden administration, remember that toothy bitch? Remember when the Biden administration had this chocolatey, Haitian woman, pretty, get up there and yap on his behalf? I almost forgot about her because of the way that this press secretary leave it is. We should have left it alone. Leave it. That was a sign. That was a warning from the ancestors about who was our people and who wasn't. Not one of them. No, absolutely not. Anyway, so she's been constantly in the media. This one was less in the media. Less so. So suddenly, right, Karine Jean-Pierre is everywhere, and it's because she put out this book. So this is the former spokesperson and White House press secretary. So she puts out this fucking book called Independent, which honestly, right, I pay attention. I got to know. Is this book any good? I think, okay, it's called Independent, and it really is her move from the Democratic establishment or the Democratic Party, right, being the literal spokesperson for it, White House press secretary, to saying that she's independent. You think, my God, there's got to be something explosive to this book. She knows something that we already knew. It's an affirmation, or she's learned something that we desperately need to know, because why in the world would the former spokesperson of this suddenly go independent, right? Especially when, if we're just keeping it a buck, the winners that we need, the AOCs and the Mamdanis, are running as Democrats. In AOC's case, she ran as an independent and failed. The two-party system is so deeply entrenched here, and I'm sorry, I'm not interested in gobbly goo fucking back and forths, just intellectual masturbation on a three-party system right now. Okay, we can't consolidate a base around fucking anything, and it won't matter if we don't have caps on political spending, let alone the electoral college and everything else. So I'm thinking maybe she knows something we don't know that we got to know. So I started paying attention. I was like, should I get this book? One of the first ways I decide if I get this book is I read book reviews from book reviewers that I like. I read about the book if the person is a person of intrigue, but mainly it's like, is this book going to say something that I need to know? And I have a lot of books for that reason. Okay. Then I also, in Jean-Pierre's case, I'm also going to watch some interviews. So I got to tell y'all something. So I read one of these book reviews, right? Because she's getting bad press. But I was like, people can get bad press for all kinds of reasons. It turns out, though, that this book is particularly not good. Imagine the promise, right? Of I am the former spokesperson of the White House, the Biden White House, the thing that some people might even be thinking of fondly, right? At this present point in time. She comes out and says, I'm an independent now. Doesn't that suggest something to you? Doesn't that suggest that some major shift has happened? All right, I'm going to read to you some lines I pulled from Becca Rothfeld, who has fucking had it. She's done. And I honestly think we all need to be. I'm going to read you some of these screenshots because there's no cans left. She said, I cannot. All her cans are sold. Okay. Get this. Imagine. First of all, no. This is the preamble, okay? In her new book, Biden's former press secretary lets Democrats have it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. She really goes in on the Democrats. That's what that means, right? Oh, no. Corinne Jean-Pierre's memoir offers a critique of Biden and the Democrats that is outdated, impractical, and driven more by personal grievance than policy. Okay. Okay. Here she go. Imagine parting ways the Democratic Party, not because of its unwavering support of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as he violated international law and waged a bloody campaign against civilians in Gaza, not because of its humiliating failure to mount meaningful opposition to the Trump administration's assault on just about everything of value in the country, not because it continues to run candidates in their 70s and 80s, one of whom opted to die in office at 90 rather than cede her seat to someone younger. And in this case, I don't know if we're talking about RBG or Feinstein, because both apply. Not because of its inability to expand access to healthcare or protect immigrants or tax the wealthy or really get anything done at all. Not because of its politely non-committal affect and rhetoric of facile uplift or its members' tendency to address the public as they are delivering the keynote at a corporate retreat, right? Because that's how they do it. It really is as if that. It's infuriating. Shut up, Hakeem. Just shut up. Okay. Not because the Democrats have no political vision, something of a liability for a political party. I have to concur in this case. But rather because of the single sensible, if very belated thing they have done in recent memory, which was to usher a doddering Joe Biden out of the 2024 presidential race. That is Jean-Pierre's grievance, right? That with a list of other personal nonsense. But this is my favorite part. I want you, listen to me. Every now and again, something is so good, it's such a good list that you write the list down, just point form, right? Just the words that matter. So that when somebody else says something annoying or stupid to you, you can just pull it out. You could shoot from the hip. This is what I want you to shoot from the hip. This is it. Yeah. You'll know when I get there, okay? You'll know when I get there. Unsurprisingly, Independent is a fascinating book for all the wrong reasons. It was dated before it arrived at the printers. Oh my God. That's not even it. Perhaps before it was even written. No doubt it will be studied by the historians and anthropologists of the future. Jean-Pierre is an artifact of an age that looks recent on paper but feels prehistoric in practice. Here we go. The age of pantsuits, the word empowerment, the musical Hamilton, the cheap therapeutic entreaties to work on yourself and quote, and lean in to various corporate abysses. Independent is written in the outmoded register of one of those lawn signs that proclaims, in this house, we believe kindness is everything, which have been firmly planted to no tangible electoral effect since 2016. I'm going to tell you this right now. If anyone wrote a book review that peeled the skin off of me like this, if anyone did that to me, I would go to sleep Corinne Jean-Pierre on Monday, and on Tuesday I would wake up Rachel Dolezal. You would not see me again in these streets. I would simply wake up a Caucasian white woman. That's it. That's it. I'm done. I'm independent. Yeah, bitch, you on your own. That's what that means. But I cannot allow anything to be left where there is a stone unturned, because it matters to be right. It matters to be right so much. So I thought, okay, let me see how she's handling the press, because this could just be one very cantankerous book reviewer. Let me see how she's handling the press. This is Corinne Jean-Pierre in an interview with Dropsite News. I've referenced it on the show before. It's a very leftist, little news company, little media company. Do a pretty good job. I would say left of the bulwark, left of most things. Very, very, very pro-Palestine. So Jean-Pierre knew what she was getting into when she did this interview. If you have any doubts, there's so many clips to choose from. This is my favorite one. So I'm pulling this up so you can hear for yourself this relic of the past that got ethered by Becca Rothfeld.
We got a few more things that we want to cover, and obviously foreign policy was a big thing during that administration, as you can imagine. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about foreign policy. You didn't mention Afghanistan. You haven't mentioned Gaza, and you certainly didn't mention Gaza much in your book. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. You stood at the White House podium speaking on behalf of the administration. You defended U.S. policy in Gaza at a time where there were mass civilian casualties, journalists being killed, whole families being wiped out, hospitals being bombed. And the international community was calling it what it was at the time, saying it was a violation, it was war crimes, and you defended the administration's policy. When you look back at that moment, do you regret any of the positions that you advocated for on behalf of the administrations, the positions you take? Do you feel that you were complicit in advocating a narrative that turned out to be wrong?
No, I appreciate the question, because one thing that I really want to make clear is that I was speaking on behalf of the president. That is the job of the White House press secretary. I'm not speaking for Corinne Jean-Pierre. I was speaking for Joe Biden. That's every White House press secretary. That is their job.
Well, you said now you speak for yourself.
Hold on. Wait, let me finish.
No, I know. I just want to, because we're almost out of time. I just want to go ahead.
I'm going to get to it. Obviously, what's happening is heartbreaking. And to not say that, and not to be clear about the devastation and the killings that we're seeing of families is just heartbreaking. And I would say is that is not the way I believe people wanted it to turn out. But I didn't make policy. The president is going to write his book. He will speak to his policy. I'm going to let his foreign policy team speak to that. But it is heartbreaking. And I'm hoping that the ceasefire holds. We need to get to a peaceful situation in the Middle East, to a peace agreement. And I know that's going to take a lot of hard work. But of course, that's not what I want to see. Of course, that's heartbreaking. I don't want to see families, children, journalists being killed. Of course not.
Like, what the fuck? Like, what the hell is she talking about? It took, if you were just dropped in, you would have no idea what she was referencing. Is she talking about Afghanistan? She's talking about Palestine? Now, I'm sure you can gauge that she's talking about Israel's relentless genocidal apartheid agenda against its Palestinian, well, actually, no, it's just occupied Palestine. I was going to say against its Palestinian people, but Palestine belongs to Palestine. Point blank period. But it's you wouldn't even know what she was talking about. So she says, I can't speak for Biden, I can only speak for myself. And she's asked to speak for herself and says nothing and will continue to say nothing. I just needed to pause it right there because I've been so good and quiet because usually I'm the one who's jamming my finger to shut these birds up. Right. Birds are genderless, you guys. What's the word for bird asshole? I feel like I knew it once, but I can't remember. Anyway. Clovial. I'll remember it later because that's what I'm what is it? Cloaca. Okay. Thank you, Corey. That's exactly what we're seeing right now. We're seeing words come out of a bird's asshole, a bird's cloaca. And let me just allow Jean-Pierre to finish her diatribe of nothing.
I hope that we get to a place where we can get to a peace agreement in the Middle East. And I know that's going to be incredibly tough to make that happen.
Now that you are speaking for yourself, Karine, do you have any regrets at all for anything that you said while you were speaking on behalf of this administration?
Look.
It's a simple yes or no. You don't even know.
No, because you're asking for a yes or no question. I want to put some context to it too. I woke up every day. Very proud to be the White House press secretary. I woke up every day as a Black woman who is queer, no one had ever seen someone like me at that podium standing behind that lectern. It was an honor and a privilege to have that job.
This right, that's okay. Remember we talked about when is it about race? When is it not about? This is one of those situations where it's just not fucking about race at all. This is a person who's weaponizing their identity in order to move legitimate criticisms away. This is a person using identity in order to not be accountable. I'm not like these people who were making these decisions, boss. Oh, no, not me, boss. No. I was just doing what I was told, boss, and I was proud to do it. Oh, I was proud. Ugh, like, don't make me talk like that. I've never had to. It's what hack comedians do on a stage, and I'll keep it a buck. This is hack, but this is a moment where it's identitarian and it's bullshit, and we need to note that. You being, in fact, you might be the only one, Jean-Pierre, who I don't know what you've read. I have no idea what you've read because I'm like, oh, you gay, like that type. Got it. You not queer. You are gay. Corporate gay. Go on. Sorry, Corey.
And I did it to the best of my abilities. And I spoke for the President of the United States, a person that I believe was a decent person. We did not get everything right. No one is saying we got everything right. No one is saying that we got everything right. No one is saying that. But we did it to our best of our abilities, and I worked very hard to do that job.
We're done. I can't with her anymore. I literally can't with her anymore. And this is what they sound like. This is what they sound like. You know, did we get everything right? No. Why can't they ever say what they got wrong? Just like one example of things that you got wrong, something of significance. Like, I don't know, botching this fucking election because you sound exactly like the Republican Party, just like not as hateful. Draconian immigration policies. And look, we have to fight the consolidation of fascism. There's no doubt about it. But Mamdani is doing well because he's not presenting a lesser of two evils. He's presenting a different vision of the fucking future. Maybe that's just a starting place, which we can't get to so long as the rotten establishment Democrats are leading the charge. This brings us to the shutdown, right? This is exactly where I mean, the fact that people are going to go hungry, I don't want to be glib about that. Okay? I don't want to be silly about that because I've been hungry before. It's an awful feeling. It's awful. It steals away your life force. We know that there was a starvation campaign that was happening in Gaza, what we do to other people, what we accept in the treatment of other people will invariably end up becoming someday how we get treated. Now, if you're a person who has experienced depression and who reads and thinks and likes art, you know that. You know that. You don't even have to go through the most extreme forms. I don't care about that. It's anybody who understands suffering understands suffering. Everybody who understands suffering understands that sorrow is not a measurable thing. It changed my life to really realize that because I was alone. I had the hardest, I'm using air quotes here, experience of anybody I knew in high school, and it just made me feel unbearably alone, right? And there was I'm sure more than a handful of people who were going through things similarly or comparably that I just didn't even know about, right? So where are we at right now with SNAP, with the government shutdown, and what does it, like, where do we go from here? I'm going to be answering some questions, right? Will the shutdown end soon? How did we get here? Who's going to be most impacted? Like, what is SNAP and who actually uses it? Okay. And then we're going to go through what the actual cost and impact is of this time. And because I want to remind you that we're not losing to skilled people. We're losing to people who played on the board, who they played the game. They rigged it to their advantage, right? Which happens. And then they continue to play the game. And we can't seem to agree about what to do with that, but that's another episode for another time. Where do we stand right now? Where do we stand in America right now? We're looking at food banks bracing for about 42 million without SNAP benefits. Now, what does that have to do with food banks, right? People who can't afford to purchase food in grocery stores, right? Because they don't have their benefits, will need to go to food banks for help, okay? They'll need to go to food banks for help. Not going to bury the lead. Who's using SNAP? Like, who's actually using it? What is it? Okay. SNAP is for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's a federal program that provides monthly food benefits to low income households to afford groceries. Now, this had another name, a much more racially charged name, even though it's funny how these myths just continue, right? And that was EBT. EBT. That's right. Remember that? So those racist myths that we never dealt with and never addressed because we don't address racism in America. Never. White people to other white people are vicious, though. Libs to libs, oof, vicious. But it ends there, and it's really superficial. And when we're just like, oh, great, you hate what this does, well, then you should love this change in policy that would be a benefit to everyone. Oh, no. I couldn't vote for that. It's too soon. It's much too soon to see any kind of change, which has happened again and again and again in this country. But that's also another episode. First of all, who uses SNAP? Why don't we start there? Who actually uses SNAP, right? Because with its racist former name, EBT, you'd think, oh God, it's gotta be welfare queens and, gangbangers, single mothers who don't want to, they'll have you believe in anything and you'll believe it so as not ever to look at the 1%, right? You focusing on the wrong people. Anyway, first of all, who uses SNAP? The elderly. They're the number one base. Disabled folks, children, right? And get this, you're not going to believe this. 70% of the people who use SNAP have jobs. They have jobs. They're employed. 40% of SNAP recipients, children. 18% are the elderly. 11% are disabled. And the rest, that's right, 70% already have jobs. So, but you know the thing, oh, they just get a job. There's lazy people. And you want to know where they're in across America? Republican states. Their primary users of SNAP benefits are in Republican states. And and here's the thing. There's no gotcha here because we're all got. Do you get me? We're all got. Okay, because, it's us and them. I'm a SNAP recipient. Well, they're over there and I'm over here. Oh, no. The reason why Because we shouldn't skim over that surface. Oh yeah, why would people who have jobs need aid? Why would people who had jobs need food aid? Doesn't that suggest that perhaps the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of percentage increases in wages for corporate heads, stakeholders, everything, it's almost as if the wealth is being extracted from workers and ballooned up to the 1% in a way that you will never see again. It's almost like they're hoarding wealth. It's almost like the wealth that working people generate is being hoarded by an elite few to the chagrin of the many. I want to be really clear about something else, though. I don't care if you work or not. You deserve to eat. What the fuck are we doing? Right? You deserve clean. Like, remember those things? There's these two words that get kind of tossed around now to mean some weird, foreign aid thing that's not attached to anything to the meaningful to the person who's saying it. Yeah, it's called human rights, right? Like, it's human rights. And I think we've sort of lost sight of that with all of our post-secondary posturing and internet hullabaloo. A home, clean water, nutritious food. These are just basic fucking rights. That's it. Healthcare, education, these are quality of life, and these things fucking matter. Just as much as the first three, but I think I don't want us to lose sight of what human rights actually are. I see a lot of race animus online. Not that it's materializing anywhere else. I'm seeing a lot of folks who are marching, and that we had another No Kings thing, and I'm never going to hate on that. It's just spiritually corrective. It's important. But the average age, once again, for the No Kings March, the average age across the country is 62 years old, right? First of all power to the fucking people. Shout out to my grown folks that were hotter, no doubt about it. Super hot. It's way harder than the other side. But these are folks whose family members who themselves might be impacted by this. And it does suggest, though, that when it comes to these kinds of issues, we're not that interested. We want to fight online about this fucking, what this Trump supporter said to a little Twinkie white boy who has no credentials across the left in any meaningful way. It does irk me. But it's also just part of the game. And I understand that. And I think we have to do a better job. I think we have to do a better job and confront some of the things that get us here, which is lack of investment, lack of resourcing, and honestly, lack of talent. That's something that I didn't know that we had, which isn't to speak to who we have. I mean, I'm talking about the crop of people coming. I'm concerned because the infrastructure that trained and made me is actually being disappeared actively, let alone the fact that I don't want people radicalized by starvation. I don't know if that's, do you get, like, that's not something that's aspirational or something we should be proud of. These are the conditions that are happening on our watch. I simply cannot let that stand. Especially from a guy who's bragging about taking a cognitive test that he thinks is an IQ test. Nigga, I was going to say, will you guys just let me have this? That nigga's retarded. Okay, I'll get the emails. I understand. I understand. I'll take it. I'll take it. I apologize. I hate him. So, okay, sorry. Back to do not go full unhinged. Remember, we're doing things. Okay. So SNAP benefits run out this week. This week, government shutdown is still happening. These food banks across America are saying that they will face a demand they cannot possibly meet alone, right? Now, we could say, well, it's going to be okay when the government shutdown ends, right? Well, first of all, we don't know when that's going to happen. I'm going to explain to you why in a moment. I mean, I hope it's imminent. It would require the Trump administration to bend. But so much has already been changed, right? By the Trump administration, the sweeping eligibility changes, right? In the administration's tax and spending bill, it's the Trump administration, that includes expanded work requirements. And I want to be clear, like the point of SNAP was to help people get back on their feet and stay there. It's really simple, but as we all know, with so many of these programs, the more you work, the less support that you have, and so you can never really catch up. It punishes you for doing well, essentially, right? It punishes you for doing exactly what it says that you ought to do. So now that we've realized that, oh, it's just racism, right? Nobody's shocked there. What's happening? Okay, so the shutdown, it's been going on for a while. I'm pulling up Axios right now, just because they're doing, and CBS, even though that fucking troll is the head now. And by the way, you can hear the difference already under Barry Weiss. What a fucking dickhead. Yep, it's day 27. I think the longest one we've had is 35 days. We're likely to cross it. Now, all flights have been from into LA are shut down currently. We've got 2,800 flight delays on Monday alone. Nothing is running as it was. So is this going to end anytime soon? Okay, so the shutdown itself was activated by a single issue, right? And that is specifically, this is what the Democrats are like. We refuse to roll on this, and they are absolutely right. The COVID era tax credits that subsidize health insurance premiums under the Affordable Care Act, the Democrats wanted extended before they expire at the end of the year, right? That's what this is about on the surface. But the actual issue at the heart of it, which is why the Trump administration refuses to bend and why the Democrats are doing their job, case, which is what they can do. And I want to be clear, right? There's several layers and entry points to this conversation. And one is like, we're under fascism. You know that, right? You might want to take some serious action faster, sooner, harder. We're deserving of that. But from the rotten administration's perspective, this is a power move, right? The Dems know that it cannot pass. Nothing can pass without some participation by Democrats. And the Trump administration has no interest in actually governing, has been unable to secure that no matter what their scare tactics have been. It does show a kind of position to each other across the Democratic Party. And you need that sometimes. You need that to boost morale. But the real issue here is Donald Trump's challenge to Congress's constitutional taxing and spending powers. That's actually what this is about. And it's why they don't want to give ground to it, right? So the president, Donald Trump, he's refused to spend money that Congress appropriated, right? And is raising revenues that Congress never approved. So he's pushing the limits of constitutional power. So I'm going to give you an example, right? Did you see in the news this fucking bullshit, this so-called gift of $130 million from an unnamed Trump supporter to fund military pay during the shutdown? That's fucking illegal. What the fuck is that? Like we talked about in previous episodes, buying, currying in favor and kissing the ring and shit, but this is banana. This is nuts. This is insane, right? Or what about raising funds from fucking plutocrat allies in defiance of the legislator? Like that's what we're talking about. That's insane. The authors of the Constitution themselves would sit there and be like, what would they say? Something super dramatic. Those little racist, no teeth, scurvy having bitches. What would they say? They'd say something like, the death spasms of a republic. Like, they'd say something like that, That's when you knew civil speech didn't mean shit. You remember when everyone was talking about Charlie Kirk, Mr. Kirk, and his civility? Just remember that them same people who wrote the Constitution with their flowery fucking pens had fucking nigga teeth. in his mouth, one of them, a couple of them, and cow teeth. You know, took the teeth of enslaved people, same folks who built this White House and really built the wealth of this country. But that's neither here nor there. I just want to remind us, those types, and even they would be like, "Hey, the death hollows, the death spasms of a republic." But what about Trump's plan, right, where he got money we can't even track, is to pay for his new ballroom, where he's extracted $300 million dollars or more from donors who, I mean, expect something in return. That's the whole point of this. That's why this is a major grift. This is the majorest grift. So, $300 million for a ballroom, $130 million, right, to fund military pay during the shutdown. By the way, it's not even enough to do that, but whatever. Right? 42 million people starving. What is it, 40% children? Yeah. Disabled folks, the elderly, the people we don't care about, don't take care of. It's like you're born, you're on your fucking own, right? You're on your own. By the time you're an adult, nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit, right? But you suffer as a child. You suffer as an adult. You suffer as an elderly person. You suffered as it's almost like late stage capitalism doesn't care. It's almost like, isn't that wild? It's almost like, right? The system that we pour into doesn't give back, and that people have a right to be upset and furious and demand better from their political leaders, right? But in this case, we know that there is a very clear enemy we have to fight. Two jobs, right? Stop the consolidation of power on the right, or in this case, break it apart, and build up our own power, not simply critique power. We have not done that. Our marches are not attached to policy issues. And look, I'm as guilty of that as anyone else. I've dedicated years of my life and decade, of this. And it always came down to policy. The change that we wanted to see always came down to some bullshit written on a piece of paper in a particular way. And it doesn't seem like it, but that's where we lose. That's where we've always lost. It's where we continue to lose. And there's so many reasons for that, many of which is not nearly the fault of the left. And I wouldn't say it's the fault of the left regardless. I just think we have to be better and smarter and more adept. But anyway, back to this, right? So knowing this, where this guy is like, I'm going to take $300 million. And by the way, who helped pay for that? Definitely Meta. Meta gave a donation. I think Amazon gave a donation. This stuff is publicly available. We know who threw money at it. Then let's not forget that Trump is raising $30 billion a month in tariff revenues, again, without a vote in Congress. So the authoritarian streak, it's not only continuing, it's consolidating itself. It's congealing. It's real, right? What's he going to do with all that money? Right? That money that Congress didn't vote on, that he now has access to, he's going to spend it. What's he going to spend those revenues on? Rants. He's going to, for his favored constituents, once more without a vote. This is all on CNN. This ain't me, right? He's considering a massive bailout for the people that he thinks at least he's saying 10 billion of that is going to go to people that I think deserve it. Doesn't that sound like, I don't know, a fucking authoritarian regime? Oh, what about the Supreme Court, right? Oh, right, the Supreme Court, that's bought and paid for. Oh, yeah, the check on balance of power. No. They're giving Trump at least temporary permission for some of these moves. Right. So the Republicans who control the House and the Senate, right, they've largely acquiesced to everything. They give him what he wants. He doesn't care or respect Congress in any way, shape, or form, which isn't something that we have found particularly compelling or sexy, because then it brings up, well, aren't we just defending the people who did the? Can we please be serious about the fight that we're in right now? All right. So this brings us to this larger predicament, right? That is the reality that Democrats are facing, the congressional ones. Can you negotiate with a president who does not accept Congress's constitutional role or his own constitutional limits? No, you literally fucking can't. It's not a question. You can't. This is where we tend to break. I'm still thinking through. I'm like, what would I want? What more would I want from them? And not rhetorically. I mean, I want to be really clear and specific. This is where our policy wonks are going to be great. The people that we have snubbed our noses to or ignored, right? The ACA subsidies, Affordable Care Act, benefit most Republicans. They think that this fight is uniquely favorable to them, and they're not wrong, right? The polls that are currently coming out show that Americans just blame Republicans more than Democrats for the shutdown. How could you not? But it doesn't change the core issue here for the Democrat and their party. You don't have a vision for the future. And that's ultimately what's pissing us off, is that you don't have one. Even in the face of this, there's still not a response. But I do think something stronger, truer, better is going to break out of it. And how quickly that happens has to do with how quickly we organize. So the question is, how did we get here? This didn't just happen. In a nutshell, food banks, part of it has to do with our culture in the country as a whole. And the left is not unique to that, right? I mentioned that I don't hear public goods being discussed in the way that it used to be. Service and volunteer work was an expectation of the left as much as it was reading Audre Lorde and fighting it with your partner about whether or not you guys should be poly. These were just part of the expectations of being on the left and of being queer. It was just part of it. You had to fight. Neither of you wanted to be, but you had to go through it. And then one person did, but didn't actually want to do the work. And somehow somebody still cheated. It's just what happens when you read The Ethical Slut and you fucking fight about it. And you decide that you're not like these other people who do mini golf and fucking hit a midlife crisis and do one of two things, either the run a marathon or do a real estate exam. It's always going to be the same thing with the very, hardcore normies. But dang damn it, if we don't need some of them, because they're going to get shit done. They respect an agenda. Who doesn't respect an agenda? The people who argue about polyamory. We actually balance each other out. If we're all annoyed, we're organizing well. Everybody equally annoyed. Okay. Back to this. These cuts, right, have been happening for years. But my point, actually, I realized that I don't think I made it well. We were not volunteering. We're not paying attention to food banks. We're not donating blood. We're not, putting our time in. A lot of people are, and I'm going to champion some of those folks. I want to be really, really clear. But culturally, in the left, that is something that's changed. It was an expectation. I ended up volunteering at a food bank. It would seem like a given since I received food from food banks as a young person. And I even had a food box appear, at an apartment door from my high school. My sister and I, post leaving the women's shelter, and we were fucking like, oh, I'll just die now. That's totally fine. But man, I went through the box. And that's also when I discovered that, it's not nice to put in like a fucking massive tub of hot peppers and assume that people can just eat that. Like, donate good food. Anywho, the Trump administration back in the spring cut $500 million in deliveries from a program that sends U.S. produced meat, dairy, eggs, and produce to food banks, right, and other organizations across the country. So that's about a quarter of the funding that the program received in 2024. Okay, so this is how we got here, right? We're in this moment where food banks are simply like, we can't cover the spread of need. We could barely do it before. We certainly can't now. And there's now 42 million people who are going to be hungry and need help. Okay. So how was this organized? The Emergency Food Assistance Program, right? And that's what these items were delivered through. This was some of the healthiest, most expensive items that organizations distribute. Okay, this matters. I have been on the receiving end. I've also been on the giving end, and being on the receiving end helped me inform me being on the giving end. when, sometimes I think when we think of food banks, unless it's Christmas, we just clean up what we don't want in our pantries and send it off to the food bank that we go. So the actual fresh food, what's not used in grocery stores, or the more expensive things like meat, right? Non-preservative based foods, those get sent through the Emergency Food Assistance Program, most of them, okay? I want to be clear about something. Food insecurity is higher than at any time since the aftermath of the Great Recession. That's where we're at. That's federal data. That's not my opinion, right? And food banks are reporting higher needs. Then we saw the peak of the pandemic. So when we're just like, God, I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do. I feel terrible. The Trump administration is they're authoritarian. They're ruining this country. The governments are terrible. We marched and we didn't change anything. Go fucking volunteer at a food bank, for the love of God, right? And now we have this urgent situation where the food banks might not have enough food. This is when we can actually organize in pockets, but I'll break down how. Even if we're just talking about food, I want to remind you that this fucking piece of shit president won by talking about fucking groceries. It's not just the Democrats who weren't talking about it. It's a lot of us. A lot of us are trading in identitarian postulating, right? Over actual, meaningful, good takes, good work, good faith. This is not sexy to us anymore. Food justice, food security, right? Neither is mass incarceration. Remember when we used to have lefties that were singular in their expertise and would dedicate their life to that? So you had people who focus on bail reform. You had people who you had criminal justice folks. You had electoral justice folks. You had food justice and insecurity folks. Yeah, I'm not seeing that type of subcultural expertise anymore. Right. And that's the point. That was the point of all of this. The collapse or the infrastructural breakdown, and it's important for us to think about why that happened. It's not just on school campuses or anything else. We're being out organized in every way, but it's partly because we betrayed our core tenets that actually made leftists in the first place. And it can't just be the stinky whites, not the stinky whites who don't wash their legs who talking about it. Cause it's not. We are talking about it. Black folks have been talking about it. Sensible people have been talking about it. And I think we're a little bit too broken up. So I'm here to make a new unpopular leftist movement that no cool people wants to be a part of, because I'm like, I don't think that you were great for us. I'm not. I think being cool online is kind of like, being in a comedy stage. Like if you're trying to be mysterious and if you're trying to be holier than thou, you've lost the audience, which is what volunteer work reminds you of, is that there's actual people at this. Being a leftist is being a fucking service worker. It's being a service worker. You feel alone, you're not sure what to do, go volunteer somewhere. I cannot emphasize enough what a good it is, because when you don't know what to do what you know. Do what you know. In the time right before Black Lives Matter was really popping off, I was like, I have so much energy. I have so much to give, so much to say. But what did I have to offer? Time. My body, right? My work ethic. And I got, honestly, free soup. They fed me too. I didn't even know what squash soup was. Did you guys know that they made a soup out of that? It's delicious. It's a delight to the senses. Okay, back to this thing, right? We got people starving in America. Sorry, I was just talking about squash soup, right? But we know that demand is only going to increase. Trump has he signed into law the largest cut to food stamps in the program's history, despite the fact that it's his constituents, his voters, that are the primary recipients of it, right? So ProPublica obtained records from the Department of Agriculture in the planned deliveries for 2025. So they're calculating the loss of food, right? The loss of the millions of pounds of food, down to the number of eggs that never reached hungry people because of the administration's cut. Now, when I say something like 90 pounds of food or something, right? 90 million pounds of food, that doesn't mean I can't conceive of that, right? I cannot conceive of that in the way that it's hard for me to conceive of 42 million starving people, but I can see it. I can feel it because I know what it's like to be hungry. Okay. But I want to break it down for you in a more damning way. And thanks to ProPublica for providing us with this information. Okay. Damn, I do be talking. I can't believe we're almost at an. Okay. I need shush. Okay. So these cancellations began in mid-May. Okay. The way we started, 100 orders of 2% milk bound for 31 states were halted. That's how it stopped. Okay.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day. Yeah.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Heart of Alabama Food Bank, 2,300 gallons of milk gone. Greater Chicago, right? 4,000 gallons of 2% milk gone. That's one of 52 canceled deliveries. 4,000 gallons of milk. How many babies? How many children? How many people? Right? 38,400 pounds of turkey breast. Right? That's from the Oregon Food Bank. 19,000 pounds of pork chops. Right? That was supposed to go to St. Mary's Food Bank in Arizona. Right? The delivery is canceled. We're starting to see, are we starting to get a sense of how much food was canceled? How much didn't go, how much ended up rotting instead of going to places where it was needed? And it's never enough. 135,000 eggs. 200, and that's from New York, right? The southern tier. One of 15 canceled deliveries. 270,000 eggs in South Carolina. One of 16 canceled deliveries. If I were to just say to you, one of 16 deliveries canceled, that wouldn't mean much to you, would it? And if they have to spin it, that's how they will. But when you actually get the number and you think about how it wasn't sufficient to feed the need of people before these cuts, imagine after, right? Records show what did I get from ProPublica? 4,304 canceled deliveries between May and September across 50 states, right? In Puerto Rico and DC. That's not going to arrive, right? I can go on. 20,000 pounds of pulled pork, DC, 38,400 pounds of turkey breast. This one's to Puerto Rico. I made sure I kept the names because when I repeat numbers, it's a different place, right? Again, 19,000 pounds of pork chops that was supposed to go to a food bank in Florida. So all told, altogether, the deliveries accounted for nearly 94 million pounds of food. Obviously, the loss is greater because we're not, so we don't know the true loss because not all of the year's deliveries had been scheduled. Everything is run amok. Okay, 29,200 pounds of turkey breast and taken off the shelf in Nebraska, right? 40,000 pounds of pulled pork in New Mexico. New Mexico is one of the most urgent places. I want us to really, because you can conceive of I can't conceive of 40,000 pounds of pulled pork. I just went full halal. I was like, no, but turkey breast, and they have it, right? It's that this food, much of it is rotting away, locked away somewhere because this Trump administration, this is demonic. It's demonic. It's waste beyond comprehension, right? This is from John Sillers, the chief strategy officer at Second Harvest Food Bank of Greater New Orleans and Acadiana. Oh, fuck. I know I said that wrong. Damn it. I forgot to Google that word and how to say it. Just pretend I said it correct. Okay, this is his quote. The next time you see one of those trucks driving down the street, you got to realize that it's carrying less food this year than it was last year. And that's because the food that we're not getting from the USDA. Okay? I could go on. 18,000 pounds of dried pitted plums. That's supposed to go to New Orleans in Louisiana. Don't make me say that other word. Okay? 270,000 eggs in Oregon Food Bank, 28,520 pounds of chicken legs. That was supposed to be in Nebraska. 8,600 pounds of dried cranberries that was feeding South Dakota, right? Starting to get a sense. Not only have we named what is largely Republican states, but it gives you a greater understanding of how much food went to waste, how much food is not going to those who need it, and how much food we actually produce that doesn't even get consumed, right? So where does the support for food banks come from? Where do they even come from, right? Most of food banks rely on a combination of federal or state dollars, right? And of course, you have private giving, you have partnerships with businesses. They donate leftover food. So these cancellations were obviously incredibly disruptive to all of the food banks, right? But you're going to have some states that are going to be able to weather it better because the state has a strong position or there's strong community support around in that state. That's not the case for most places. The food bank of Central Louisiana, gets more than half of its food from the federal government, right? And it receives very little state support. Not a shocker there, right? So it's in those rural areas of Louisiana. These have the highest poverty rates in the nation. U.S. Census data, right? So the Trump administration canceled 10 orders for the food bank, totaling over $400,000 of pork, chicken, cheese, dried cranberries, dried plums, milk, and eggs. That's the food bank of Central Louisiana. That's what the Trump administration, this is one place. This is a food bank that struggled to keep up with demand just generally, and now is even more so following the cuts and a decrease in private donations. Everybody's tightening, even those who don't need to. Staff there told ProPublica they used to distribute about 25 pound packages of food, but over the summer, some packages shrank to about half that weight. Those are families not being fed. Those are disabled people who can't eat. Those are children, right? These are our elders, the people that we're supposed to care about and respect in our society, right? Well, how do they run? How do these food banks run? We now know where they get some of their money from. How do they run? The Emergency Food Assistance Program, that's what I've referenced a bunch of times, was created in 1983, and it was designed to purchase farmers' surplus food and distribute it to low-income people, right? So the program's budget, so now we're present tense, the program's budget is typically authorized every 5 years as part of the Farm Bill. But in 2018, under Trump's first administration, they added funds. This is actually important because you're going to think, whoa, I'm saying a good thing, but then it goes evil because of who we're talking about, okay? So the Farm Bill, when Trump did all that bullshit with the tariffs in his first run, with those retaliatory tariffs, the U.S., he added padding to that Farm Bill, okay? So he added funds. The additional discretionary federal funds that Trump added helped food banks serve more people. Okay, so this last fiscal year, they got nearly twice as much money from the fund as they did from their congressional allocation. That is a good thing, right? But that was just to shut people the fuck up. And actually, they're thinking about doing it again. CNN covered that Trump considers massive bailout for American farmers hurt by his trade war. But that's not, I think we can see specifically why this is not something anyone should hang their hat up on, because they're cutting and slashing at every chance that they get. It's just to shut everybody up for 5 seconds because he can't stand to be disliked. Not that those people ever roll over on him, but rather than say, hey, we did this good because our shitty, fucked up retaliatory tariff trade war has actually impacted even the people who voted for me, and I don't care about the ones who don't at all. But that's some good that I did. Oh no, rather than claim that they did this a couple of years ago, they're calling it. They're saying, well, you never got more food. Oh wait, if you did get more money for it, it was a Biden era slush fund, right? That's what they're characterizing this additional funding as. Not we rug pulled you, we fucked you over. No, it's just Biden. is the second, they're saying that this $500 million cut had already been allocated, but no, the infusion came from them. They just don't want the backlash. They're saying this was just irresponsible spending. So food bank managers, some of whom have decades of experience, can't recall a disruption like this, right? So the farm bill is, up for renewal right now, like this fall. And officials at food banks are really worried that any additional costs would have, scale back the number of people they serve. So even as I tell you, it's time to do your time. There might not even be enough food for people. But again, this is where we can help organize around these things. It's like if we keep doing this thing on the left where we think we can solve the whole issue by morally being by, our strong sense of ethics and morality. And it's like, feeding your people is not feeding your ego. These are different things, right? What are the results of our beliefs? The USDA had a stupid response. I'm not even going to bother with that. And, going to round out here. This is going to get white people upset. This one right here. I got you. Don't worry. I got you. 24,575 pounds of cheddar cheese. Cheese gone to waste. Where's my Caucasian outrage? They threw the cheese away. It's rotting. The cheese is rotting. They cut SNAP benefits. I need white people to organize. The highest users of SNAP: children, disabled folks, the elderly. Shockingly, mostly in Republican states, not the racist myths you've been led to believe. And if that's not enough to galvanize you, then what about the 24,576 pounds of cheddar cheese that didn't make it to Nebraska? Or what about the 16,380 pounds of cheddar cheese that didn't make it to New Orleans? That's what you need to be mad about. Cheese is going to waste. Cheese. I know that if ever I want to strike up a conversation with an unknown white, cheese. If they're serving wine, you sniff it and you start saying words. The words are descriptive in nature, right? But they don't have to be connected. You just swirl the wine and then you say things like tobacco, vanilla, cherry, oak. You start saying things and then you get there like, That's get the cheese. That's where we're going to get these folks. That's how we're going to get the liberals to organize. They're going to be fucking furious about the goddamn cheese. Okay. What are the key takeaways though from this, right? We're talking about this. It's my own little call to action about how we have to do things differently, but I want to be really clear about something, because I'm also, my job is to show the limitations of the left of current leftist logic and what Chimamanda would rightfully call orthodoxy, even if her application of it was not exactly correct. Right? We think we can just mutual aid our way out of fucking everything. No, we can't. We cannot mutually aid our way out of a non-existent public education program that makes who we live around so much worse. We can't mutual aid ourselves out of the fact that 40 million people are going to go hungry potentially, and food bank infrastructure. We can't mutual aid our way, right, out of rights, reversal of our fucking fundamental rights. I keep thinking that we're going to figure that part out, but we don't seem to know. We couldn't mutual aid our way out of stopping the starvation campaign and Israeli apartheid in Gaza because it's a foreign policy issue here in the United States in Congress. If we do not have actual power, we have nothing but a bunch of opinions, and people can't eat that shit. They can't sleep on it. It doesn't house people. I had clips, and I don't even need to play the rest of these clips. We're wrapping here, but I want to be really fucking clear about that. There is no mutual aid that is going to get us out of this if we do not start to build out some actual real political power that feeds people and not fucking egos, right? We can. This is the thing. The frustration that I feel isn't from failure. It's from not failing enough. We should be failing fucking spectacularly, trying new things. But instead, people who are gifted and talented and have done their time and put in their work, they end up running candidates. Those candidates end up winning. AIPAC takes them out and replaces them with a figurehead. And the second that those folks come into power, we lose interest in them because we say that they're now part of the political power structure. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. This ain't a matter of blue, no matter who, right? It's not. That is always stupid. It's choosing who we want on that board while we fight in, honestly, the issue area that speaks to you the most. But you don't even know what that is, right? I'm just yapping, by the way. I have no idea who. Just let me go off. Let me go off a little bit. But yeah, this is the key takeaway I really want us to understand. There is no mutual aiding our way out of this. We actually need to build political power. People are suffering in this country in a way that they absolutely do not need to be. And there's too many people who want to do good work. And I just want to tell you who they are before we go. Okay. Detroit farmer. Travis Peters. He's a Detroit farmer. With SNAP benefits coming under threat, they're under threat right now. He's stepping in. A farmer in Detroit, a black man. He wants to make sure their community is clean, so he's giving away whatever he grows for free. That's really beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. Right? And for the record, what are the average? What do people get on average for SNAP benefits when they're one person? On average across America, $199 a month. Please be so fucking serious. Do you know what I mean? On average, $364. And the number's gone. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. It's not even enough, and the not enough is getting cut. Right? But people like Travis Peters is reminding us what our actual job is. There's an article on him by Phil Lewis, and Phil Lewis is a journalist. It's on his Substack called What I'm Reading. But when things are there from that guy, it's him. He's like him and Ken Kleppenstein. There's folks where they are still the journalists out there. But this is something that he's been preparing for, this Travis Peters, for this moment. So he's the owner of Green Boots Veteran Community Horticulture Gardens and Marketplace. Jesus Christ. That's a black man would name it that. I'm gonna keep it about a black man would name it that. The Green Boots Veteran Community Horticulture Gardens and Marketplace. I know that horticulture he was like, this is the one. But it's in Detroit, and it's encouraging anyone who may be facing food insecurity as SNAP benefits lapse to come to his farm on Tuesday to, quote, get a bag or two of produce. It's just something to feed your family free of charge. Come on. Right? Every person, from the quotes, there's quotes that I pulled that I didn't read, but I don't even need to read I'll just name them. Jocelyn Lantrip, a spokesperson at Food Bank of Northern Nevada. Right? Dave Patterson, Chief Operating Officer at Food Bank of the Southern Tier, right? Karen Ratzlaff, Chief Philanthropy Officer at Blue Ridge Area Food Bank. These aren't names that we get to know. But there are people who want to do good fucking work. John Sillers, right, who I mentioned earlier, is the Chief Strategy Officer at Second Harvest Food Bank of Greater New Orleans, and Diana? Fuck me. You get what I'm saying. We get to decide how we show up in this moment and what work we do. And I promise you, if we do it and we do it consistently and well enough, it just sets a spark. It sets a spark. I do know that a major iteration, a major movement is happening. Black folks in this country are still studying. We're still studying. It's great when we're marching and yapping and whatever, but I want to remind us of why mass mobilization happened in the first place. It was to create policy changes, amendments, codify rights, right? Now we're marching because we're mad. We're making demands that are not, stop this right now. No. Oh, okay, cool. We need political power. All the pieces are there. Honest to God, it really is. We've just lost the plot a little bit. We're still in the story. We still come back. And I do think, even though it's hard to see it from this place, that it's there. But in the meantime, a testament to the work ahead is how we show up right now and how much agency we have right now and how we approach this right now. And it does. It starts with feeding your neighbors. I know it sounds so stupid, but that's it. It starts with care. So, but I need, from a dark woke perspective, the takeaway to be I've got to do something with what I know. And whatever it is okay. There's no right or wrong. Failure is a part of this work. That's all comedy is. That's all activism is. I just fail in public over and over and over again, right? But become a champion of that. And suddenly it looks like winning, right? These are people who have the highest concentration of wealth you can imagine and the highest concentration of power. There's a reason why we think what we think about each other. Before I end, I want to say this. As 42 million people in the country potentially go hungry because of a government shutdown, and the corporatocracy that is the shadow entity that's shaping all of our experience of the world, and the 4 or 5 people who fucking run that. I want to remind you that the richest man on earth owns X. He's worth $500 billion. The second richest man on earth is about to acquire TikTok, right? It's Larry Ellison and his family. The Ellison family could soon own both Paramount and Warner, right? The third richest man on the on Earth, on the face of Earth, owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, that's, Meta, Zuckerberg, $270 billion. And the fourth is Bezos at $237 billion, who also owns the Washington Post, right? And we haven't even gone down, but that's just the 4. That's just the 4 richest men. Our entire experience right now is being shaped by those people. That is not okay. These are skanks. These are fucking capitalist skanks. I don't want my entire experience shaped by just 4 people. Do you? I want my experience shaped by many, and they actually have the opportunity to do that. They step out of the realities that they create all the time. They actually, if I were to confront and say, did you know? And here's the thing, my position has evolved. I genuinely don't believe that billionaires should exist, but I have no interest in taking down a single billionaire here or there, or condemning that one, because then how do we wrap our heads around Rihanna? I'm not taking shots there. Because I genuinely believe they should not exist. But what I'm saying is, part of the issue is that we lived in a system that allowed it to happen in the first place. And if we don't start taking responsibility for some of that in terms of building our power so that we can at least create some strongholds and do something useful while we're here versus just judging it from the outside. Well, I've never been one to participate in spectator sports anyway. I was like, oh yeah, we got to fuck that guy and fuck this guy. And I'm like, they're actually not the problem. The problem is the possibility of it in the first place. The problem is that we live in a system that allows this. And they exploited it. They exploited it really, really well. And we were like, not my business, not my problem. Fuck the system. It's all this and that. And that's not everybody, of course. But I just want to end with a reminder. And we've talked about this before. Because I'm adjusting to this. This is not what I expected. Oh, no. I didn't expect to be like, fuck, I got to learn about writing policy. But it comes down to that. It comes down to the results of what we believe and not simply what we believe. And I assumed that somebody better would know, that we would usher in this major cultural shift and, then start putting forward this policy, and it would be good enough and smart enough. People would buy into it enough, but it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. And it's our job to figure out what works this time. So here's to failing spectacularly, and here's to you. Tomorrow I'll talk a little bit more about the changes and stuff. Right now I'm just excited to be regular. You might actually hear Corey for the first time tomorrow, depending on how it goes. But I want to be clear. Yeah, things are bad. They've always been bad. I'll talk to you more about that tomorrow. Yeah, there's been some shit that's been awful. Every generation of people that's been alive. Oh, hell yeah, I'm going to be talking about, what is it? The NSPM fucking 7, memo that allows for the targeting of lefty people, of nonprofits, organizations. Yes. Go back to the Sedition Act with Woodrow Wilson before we had any fucking rights. That's what I'll be talking about sometime this week. probably, right? But it's every time is the worst time. But I do think that this time is significant, if only because we are not inheriting a blueprint, we're tasked with creating one. And I can't think of a better crop of people to do that with, because as hard as shit is, this is the most ready and the most willing and the most able group of people I could imagine. From millennials, Gen X onward, like we did not go full, corporate skank. We still believe so much of what we believed in. It's probably because we weren't able to accumulate wealth. Like boomers have. And a lot of these fucking folks, they didn't inherit or create wealth equally across the board. We know that. And I want to remind people that it's elderly folks, much of whom are also going to be disabled, that aren't eating today. So yes, but it was a very specific subset of boomers, so we can point the finger as much as we want. I'm most interested in fact, we're pointing the finger when we really should be raising our hand. Be like, hey, how did you guys get done what you got done? Because we haven't done shit. And I say this as someone who's proud of the work that I've done. Generationally, though, we have yet to make our mark, and we're still good to go. I got one good knee. One. I'm ready to go. I learned about CMOS. I'm not running. I'm not running. I'm fighting. Anyway, I'm rambling now. I hope that this helped illustrate how we actually have everything we need. Yes, it's hard. It's impossible. Some lanes are occupied, some aren't. But the food is there. The food is there. That's the hard part. The easy part is thinking that the energy that we need, it's there. The hard part is the distribution pipelines. We're not distributing our power well, and therefore we can't build it well. And we build it brick by brick by doing good work that interests us, or work that maybe doesn't, but we should give it a shot anyway. Because that type of creativity and curiosity is exactly what fascism fucking hates. For all that people defend, capitalism by saying that, on these authoritarian commie countries, everybody looks and sounds the same. And I'm like, that's exactly what theocratic fascism is trying to enforce here. We're all just dumb and have diseases, and we're illiterate gambling addicts. Like, come on, right? Pastor Jamal Bryant says, "Don't give me any tiths, for food donations." He wants it to go to food donations instead, amid SNAP cuts and job losses. We have a moment to do good, real good, the kind of good that public good that stopped existing for a long time and is especially stopped existing on the left. I don't expect the fucking right, who claims to be Christian and this and that, to do that. I do expect that from us, though. And we can, and we have before, and we will again. So with that, I love you all so much. There is no impact that is great or small. I really want you to know that. I know it's like, oh, but this person did this big, amazing thing. And it's luck, it's timing, and it's a message and a face. That's it. Massive things, massive movements. I mean, it started in a church basement with a bunch of like older Black ladies who were like, let's fucking let's go. I'm positive that's how they said it. Let's fucking go. Right? The way that we know that Rosa Parks wasn't just some old lady that chose to sit down there. No, it was part of a campaign, right? Similar to the bus boycott. And it was those folks who chose MLK. It's always a group of little weirdos. And if enough of us are doing it, then enough of us are setting little fires everywhere. And that's the thing that this administration is most afraid of, which is why they're targeting not-for-profit leaders, targeting random former or current political leaders across the left, from Letitia James down to someone I know personally, right? Which I still need to go over everything, but I'm pretty sure I'll be able to talk about it soon. If they know how dangerous you are, how come you don't? So, I love you very much. I'm dangerous. I'm so dangerous. I'm the most dangerous. I just did that, and then I realized I looked Muslim, and I was like, I don't like how that could get clipped. By the way, Shout out Islam. Remember how I was raised Catholic and I have a Muslim ass last name? Okay, we're now getting off I can't wait till I become a Catholic again so I can tell everybody I'm Jesus on the right. You're gonna love that. You're gonna love it. I'm yammering on and on. I love you all very much. I'm looking forward to the episode tomorrow. You wouldn't believe the tech difficulties we got through, but I thank you, Corey, for getting us through it. And thanks to each and every one of you who take the time to listen to this show. I'm so pissed off. Like I cannot tell you. Like food, don't take away people's food. You know, and if we can win here, we can win for Palestinians. Just like how we need to build, they can and will build up their homes brick by brick if we can create the foundation. Or I should say their will and their belief is the foundation. If we can get over our bullshit, we can do everything. We can win everything. I believe it. That I do believe. Because you shouldn't even be here. Okay. I love you all very much. Thank you all for listening, and I can't wait for the next episode of Dark Woke. Mwah.